conversation, they're all dead. The lines cut off inside my head. I left here like a broken man with no idea of where I stand. Oh, my mind clears. Lord, I shed all of my tears. Oh, now baby, I was just waiting here while you moved on. Security, this newfound freedom you kept from me. The sound of all your loaded guns. This heartbreak war has just begun. The sound of all your loaded guns. This broken man has already won. Oh, my mind clears. Lord, I shed all of my tears. Oh, now baby, I was just waiting here while you moved on.
The Evan Ginzburg Show at villageconnectionradio.com. And no, I have not become a raging alcoholic. Our previous show had Sean from Prestige Imports with his wine company, and he was gracious enough to leave some for myself and the guests. So throughout the show, I'll do my best to get plastered and drown all my miseries, as I've been promoting 350 days heavily for 2 months, and I'm exhausted. But in 12 days, 350 days is coming, and we have superstar Billy Graham and Bret Hart as the stars, Greg Valentine, Tito Santana, Bill Eadie, Marty Jannetty, tons and tons of other greats, and it's nationwide, and that's www.fathomevents.com/350 days to buy tickets, and 350daysthemovie.com, and we have our big premiere at the Regal Theater, Union Square, around the corner from the legendary Strand Bookstore. And with that out of the way, we have an all wrestling show today with my buddy, the Beard Villain, Johnny Malloy. Later in this show, Brother Greatness, and wrestling radio host and historian Michael McCurdy. So without further ado, we have the Beard Villain. And why the beard villain? What made you grow that beard so long? What's that all about? Tell the fans.
You know, when you got a talent, you have to exploit it. No,
Yeah.
Listen, I'm Norwegian, so this stuff, it just sprouts and it just keeps coming. So at this point, it's more the beard grew me. But no, years ago, back in the days of FTW on Long Island, I was in a tag team. 2 drunk brothers called Beard Life. And my brother, Head Rush, he kept shaving his beard. Every 6 months, he'd show up to the show baby-faced.
Yeah.
I'd say, well, Beard Life, what are you doing? He says, my woman wanted me to shave.
Yeah.
So I made a pact to never shave again. Just to throw it in his face. Every time he shaved, I'm like, look at this and look at you.
Yeah.
So from there, 3-4 years later, I wrapped a chair around his head, knocked him out in front of 400 people.
Yeah.
And the beard villain was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So give us some career highlights for those who aren't familiar with you.
When people ask that, it's always the guy saying, 10 years ago I did this, 5 years ago I did that. All my career highlights are right now, right recent.
That's positive.
BWF Universal Champion for a year and a half recently. Rampage Pro Heavyweight Champion for the longest time in company history, the last year. Open Challenge Champion down in Delaware the last year. I created Dover vs. the World, where I wrestled first NXT WWE former star Bull James. Beat his ass.
He's a big boy.
Yeah. Yeah, but you
beat his ass. He's a big boy. I'm impressed.
Here's the thing. Somewhere between when he cracked my skull on a chair, I realized no matter how big somebody is, if you kick them in the nuts, they will go down.
That's right. That's like the equalizer, the nuts.
It is. It's God's great equalizer.
That's right.
So I beat Bull James, and then we had ECW legend Just Incredible, and I beat him too. And then recently, we had Lucha Underground's newest star, Licious, also known as Sonny Kiss. Sonny Kiss came down to Dover a couple days after debuting for Lucha Underground, and of course, like all the rest, lost to the Beard Villain.
I've been telling people for years that Sonny Kiss was going to make it in this business, and it's interesting to me as an old school fan because in the 70s and 80s, he would have been the heel. The fans would not have gone for a gay persona. And they would have turned on him. I mean, if you think, the heels who from Gorgeous George on, anybody that did anything remotely feminine, they were always the heel. And society has changed over time, and I think it's a positive change that this kid is loved. Everybody loves this guy, and he's a great athlete. And,
yes.
And I'm really happy for him. He did a show with me a while back, and just a great personality and full of life. And I hope WWE has the guts to let him be himself when he finally gets there. And
I think it's one of those personalities you can't drown out. Even if they tried to say, okay, Sonny, you're this, it would just bleed through. That's who he is. He's a male cheerleader without the spirit squad around him. It's not a gay thing. It's a personality thing. He's Sonny. He's always on the bright side. Yeah. I love the dude. I was really glad to get a chance to wrestle him. And because I love him so much, I did not follow through on my promise to break his neck.
Yeah.
I remember talking to his boyfriend before the show.
You're a good friend. You didn't break his neck.
I know. Literally, talking to his boyfriend before the show, and his boyfriend says to me, we were riding up in the car, and the guy in the back, he's a big wrestling fan, he turns to me and he says, so this is Sonny's last match. And his boyfriend Killian says, what? And he says, his last match. That guy's going to break his neck tonight. That guy seemed pretty serious. So I said, okay, we're doing something right here. And if people thought it was going to happen, I took it away. I said, you know what? Now he can go home. Now he can have a nice night and remember who beat him.
I'll tell you, a couple of years back, I was down at the Elks Lodge for an indie show. And Bray Wyatt, in his indie persona, before he went to WWE, was there. And they actually announced that he was going to WWE the next week. And everybody was very happy for him. Every so often it feels like an actual community where everybody supports somebody, and instead of being jealous of them, you're glad for their success. No, every so often. And it's good to see that Bray Wyatt's moved on to like big things and made good money, and I hope the same for Sonny Kiss. And speaking of that, a guy that I sincerely feel is going to make it one day is Mike Orlando. So I want to wish him well. He just got badly injured, and
yeah, I didn't want to hear Mike got hurt. When I heard that, I'm watching Mike's training videos, and I like Mike. Me and Mike connect, and I was really sad to hear it. But I was also sad that it didn't happen in a match with me, because then I could have took credit for it.
Right.
So. But Mike's going to recover. He's going to be back.
Yeah, he said he'll be back in 5 months, which is a blip in, real time.
Oh, a young guy, too. Yeah, he's got plenty of time.
And the thing with Mike is, 1, he's got the size. 2, he's got the charisma. And 3, he's got the talent. So, he's one of those rare, perfect combination of everything you need to make it in this business. No matter what people say, McMahon still comes from that era where, Bruno and Backlund and Pedro, they always face the monster heels, and McMahon is always going to like them bigger, larger than life. And Mike's a big guy, ex-football player. He's going to make it. Yeah, Mike's
and he's got a polarizing personality, and I mean that in a good way. When you meet Mike Orlando, you either instantly hate him or you instantly love him, and those are the guys that are successful.
I'm a Scorpio, and I'm either 100% for you or I won't spit on you if you're on fire. So I kind of get that, in the wrestling business, I've dealt with promoters who, are honest and not always great businessmen, but honest. And
me.
I've dealt with other promoters who they're just vile human beings. Yeah. I mean, I've booked legends on their shows, and they're trying to nickel and dime them, and we're standing our ground. Give us the money you promised us. Yeah. And it's an interesting business, and I'm either with you or I won't look at you. And so I understand when you say Mike has a similar temperament.
Yeah. But it's worked for him. I mean, the places he's been, the matches he's had, Ryback, Jack Swagger 3 times this year. It's working. So he's on the good side of the coin right now, and he'll come off that when the injury's done.
He does a lot of work with John Trotsky, who I work with on The Wrestler. Okay. And I was associate producer on The Wrestler. And John's a good guy also.
I think I've heard that once or twice before.
Yeah. So what do you have going on lately? What's going on? You're always down at Bronx Wrestling Federation. Where else you working?
I do the Bronx. I try to get there once a month.
I love that place. It reminds me of Sunnyside Gardens and these old school, a lot of families, a lot of kids.
It's got a magnetism to it. It really does. Yeah. It's got a unique audience, and I stick out like a sore thumb. I'm the whitest guy in the room. I got the longest beard. I'm big. I'm scary, and they want to know where my teeth are, and I can't give them an answer. Yeah. I love the Bronx. And the Bronx is a once-a-month thing for me.
Bronco's a good guy.
Bronco is my second favorite promoter I've ever worked for. And it's because he's honest. I mean, I can't understand what he's saying, but people tell me he's very honest when they translate.
He's like something out of Popeye and Bluto. He's a big boy, right?
Yeah, like you said, the old school, as big as humanly possible. Let's max the frame out.
If Bronco walks down the street, you'd go, "That guy's a wrestler."
Yeah,
yeah. It's you just look at him. That guy's a wrestler.
I guess that's the whole point, right? Yeah. But yeah, I'm doing BWF in the Bronx. I'm doing July 7th. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's been too long since I lost my belt, so I'd like to get a belt back there. I recently returned after 12 years to the place I trained, Victory Pro Wrestling in Center H, New York.
New management, right?
New management, and one of the first things they did was call the Beard Villain. I think that's a pretty good choice.
There you go.
Similarly, on July 28th, I'm going to wrestle Jai Cole at EWA Maryland in my EWA return for the first time in 8 years. And what would you know? Again, management changed, and the first thing they did was bring in the Beard Villain. And then, Jay, sorry, I guess I'm doing this early, but August 18th, Rampage Pro Wrestling invades Comic-Con in Delaware. We will be back at the Dover Agricultural Museum, and we'll see what happens. But that's the big one I'm focused on, that Dover return.
Wow. And speaking of Bronx Wrestling Federation, just want to do a shout-out to my crew, Simply Splendid, and Sir Christopher Michaels, and Sophia, and all of them. We have fun down there when we go down there. So
what's Bobby go by now? Marvelous, or what's the tag name on Bobby C now?
The tag name?
Like a tag name, like what? Marvelous Bobby C or Splendid?
Simply Splendid.
Simply Splendid. There you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Bobby C's a good guy.
Yeah, I like Bobby.
And it's nice. Like I said before, wrestling is a dog-eat-dog business, and it's nice when people are supportive.
Yeah.
And you know, it's good when people actually help each other, promote each other,
Yeah.
and it's not always the case in this business. A lot of pettiness.
I remember hearing when I was coming in years ago how the veterans would sit you down and they'd tell you stories in the locker room, and I was looking forward to that. And then when I got in, that didn't happen because the majority of the veterans, the true veterans, were so tired of the way things had been that they'd show up, pick a corner, get dressed, get their stuff, and get out.
Well, I'll tell you the other side of that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of veterans tell me, and a lot of the legends are friends of mine.
I know what you're going to say, yeah.
They'll tell me that a lot of the kids don't want to listen. They
Yeah.
think they know everything at age 18,
Yep.
19, 20. And they get frustrated when, you know, the veterans inevitably will tell the kids, slow it down.
Yes.
Tell a story. You don't need 37 high spots. If you do a move, sell it.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times these kids, they'll just stop like a deer in the headlight. You know, if they miss a move and they just look befuddled in the middle of the ring. And when a legend, you know, gives them really good advice, they tend to ignore it.
Yeah.
And so I see both sides of it.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I understand that a lot of it was the fact that they tried and they tried and they tried and it fell on deaf ears. So I've been doing this for a little bit, and sometimes some people tend to look at me as a bit of a veteran doing this now. And I try to be the opposite. If you want to hear a story, let's sit down. If you want to hear advice, here it is. If you want an opportunity, I'll help you. And no matter how many times, no matter how many people don't take the advice, don't listen, there's always a Bradley Greatness that drives himself down to Dover and gets himself a job. Yeah. So it's always worth it when the guys actually listen. And then hey, listen, like I said, when I came in, it wasn't like that. So if I can contribute to changing that with my little couple of years veteranhood, then great.
All right. So what advice would you give to a totally new green kid? He's 18. What would you tell somebody? What have you learned from this?
Get your teeth right. Make sure your teeth look great. So Ring of Honor wants to put you on TV.
Yeah.
Get in the gym and go to a reputable school. I love the fact that I went to Victory Pro Wrestling when it started. But now, hindsight, I realized if I had spent the extra $100 a month and gone to
Johnny Rod's,
NYWC, or let's say, oh my God, Taz, I can't remember the name of his training school. He had like a finishing school that Bull James went to, and a lot of guys benefited. I probably would have did that. So get your teeth right, get in the gym, and go to school. And don't take every booking that comes to you the first year, because some of it is not a learning experience. Some of it is just a chance to get injured, and you want to avoid that. You want to go to WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact. You want to say, here's my medical. I'm releasing it to you. You'll find no injuries, no breaks. You want to keep everything clear. So that's my advice. There's no magic ticket. Like Chris Candido told me, we're all going to get there. We're just on different roads.
You know what Jim Cornette told me once? He used to work with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
He said they will get mountains and mountains of videos, and it might take 6 months. It might take 9 months for them to watch it because they have God knows how many.
Yeah.
And he says what they're looking for is, can you tell a story? Can you work a crowd? It's not about the high spots. It's, so everybody could potentially get that shot if they know what they're doing and, present it in such a way that's marketable as opposed to, look, I'm a human video game. That's not what they're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, a friend of mine, Mike Magnum, I don't know if you met him, Evan.
Yeah.
Big guy, great look. He looked like the stereotypical guy you'd see on Velocity. He went down to the Performance Center in 2015. He did a tryout. 150 other guys. And
150 other guys.
Well, guys and girls. Let me give
That's
the women credit. And they were doing matches. 20 matches in a day. And he looked at the match card and he didn't see himself at all. So he ran over to William Regal. He said, "What's going on?" And William Regal fixed the situation. He put him in matches. Unfortunately, he put Mike in matches with the stars of the camp. So Biff Busick and Johnny Gargano were Mike's 2 matches that day. And Mike said, "I'd never felt more invisible." It wasn't me wrestling Johnny Gargano. It was Gargano wrestling creative player number 1 that was just supposed to make Johnny look good.
Wow.
And he felt like it was a gift, but at the same point he was saying, just because I didn't have the name value of a Mr. Wrestling, I was instantly washed out, despite being coachable, the right size, blah, blah, blah. At that time, it was almost like the camp was set up just to raid Ring of Honor and Evolve of talent. Because at the end of the camp, they said, we're going to call your names. We're going to call about 8 people. And they called 8 Ring of Honor and Evolve wrestlers and nobody else in the entire camp. And he came home so dejected. He came home so upset. He got off all the stuff, all the supplementation. He stopped hitting the gym, and he just gave up.
Wow.
And I said, this is one of my best friends in the world. And when I watched that happen, I said, he don't want it enough. Because Tommaso Ciampa didn't give up when they told him 10 years ago to leave. Tony Nese did not give up 10 years ago when they told him to leave. I said, you might get all the tools, and you had one bad night, and you gave up. And so I'm never going to give up.
Well, that's the first rule of anything. Don't give up. If
Yeah.
you take yourself out of the game, no matter what it is, you're finished.
Nobody
So,
scars from the sidelines, Evan.
talking any business. So,
Yeah.
of course. So, anything you want to plug?
Right now, this is the first time I've talked to anybody in a long time. I've been quiet for the last 2 weeks. So if you want to see the Beard Villain at his best, come out July 7th to the Bronx. Because I'm going to come in shape. I'm going to come ready. And I need to show these people that despite the things that have happened recently in my wrestling career, the Beard Villain is at the absolute top of his game. And it's only up from here. So July 7th in the Bronx. That's what
And
I'll plug.
that's the first...
First wrestling appearance since... I don't really want to talk about that. But since, that's the first one.
And BWF is the first Saturday of each month or Friday?
First Saturday of each
First
month.
Saturday of each
Yeah.
month, right.
Which is great because then it's easy. You don't have to worry about putting out flyers or anything because people know they show up. There's going to be wrestling.
Yeah, and it's always a good show, and they let the kids in the ring at the end. And
Which I hated in the beginning. I was going stir crazy watching it. But then I realized it's such a unique environment, and these kids are going to grow up telling their brothers, their sisters, their friends about it. And in that fact, Bronco is a genius.
yeah.
Promote the way you want. It's always full. He's doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before I let you go, tell me about the big title loss in Dover.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about that, though. Yeah, I don't want to... Evan, when we sit in the green room, and you're a friend of mine, and I specifically asked you not to talk about Dover versus the World 4.
It's my job as a journalist.
You know what? Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody here. Hope your next guest is amazing. Good luck, Evan. I'm done.
Wow.
Thank you. I'm good.
Wow.
I'm great.
I feel like Gordon Soley. Well, I'm going to talk to my engineer, Jim Savali. We didn't expect that.
We've had better interviews than that.
Well, I didn't expect that.
No, that was a surpriser.
So why don't we show the trailer from 350 Days, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with Brother Greatness.
Talk to everybody about the big documentary that's coming out, 350 Days, captures the life of wrestlers and the things they did.
Hi, this is Greg the Hammer Valentine. You gotta go see 350 Days. That's right, 350 Days because I'm in it. A lot of other great wrestlers are in it. Big names, big stars, talking about lives and times of wrestling, and the main thing, on the road.
It's a great movie. Have lots of wrestling, lots of road story, lots of funny stories, lots of bad stories. You watch it, it's great.
It's about my life, about wrestling lives years ago. What we used to go through on the road, fighting the matches, fighting fans sometimes.
You got the rocker Marty Jannetty here, rocking and rolling, strutting and strolling, slamming and jamming, moving and grooving, taking care of business and having good times. And I want y'all to see what wrestling is really all about. You do have to, when you're rockers, fight for your right to party, but 350 days, watch the movie, see what really goes on behind the scenes. And we're gonna still keep on rocking.
Let me tell you, it's about 350 days on the road that the professional wrestlers had to travel and make a living. I think it'll be really interesting. And I'll show you all the reasons I have all these injuries.
You need to check out this documentary, 350 Days, and get the taste of the blood of the life pro wrestling, what I love and what I would die for. So you check it out. Let's do a little thing and making together. Come on, good journey. 350 days.
Come see me, Wendy Richter, in 350 days, life on the road as a professional wrestler.
Hey, this is your Jive Soul Bro. You know who I'm talking about, the one and only, the slickster, the doctor of style. I'm here to tell you, you need to do yourself a favor. Get out there, see the documentary, 350 days. I'm telling you, you need to see it. Don't miss it.
It's a great, great story about the lives, not only of mine, but other people too. And each of us has our own individual story to tell of how we had a dream, chased our dream. Some had greater success than others, and I was a fortunate one to have a great career.
You know, it's sometimes when you dig deep and you scratch the surface, you don't really see the whole true story. But if you dig real deep, get really down there and look at it close, you'll find out what pro wrestling's all about. So I'm just gonna say, I hope all my fans will get a chance to watch this because it's gonna be a great documentary.
Hello, wrestling fans. My name is Lanny Poffo. 350 days on the road, and let me tell you what, I enjoyed every minute of it.
This is Tito Santana. Come see me in the movie 350 Days. You will not regret it. You will see the pioneers, how we live. Arriba! The wrestling fan, you know, they loved you or they hated you. You know, if the fan loved you, they couldn't do enough for you. You know, they want to buy your meal, they want to buy your drink. I think it was one of the main reasons that, you know, whenever I stepped into the ring, I wanted to give back. I wanted to satisfy their reason for coming out and watching me wrestle.
I tell you what, I treated fans with respect and they loved me back. Whether I was a heel or a babyface, it didn't matter.
I learned right from the get-go with my parents that was to appreciate every single fan that you got, every one. You know, I think that's one of the reasons I've had longevity in wrestling is that I always treated my fans with a lot of respect.
They wanted to kill me trying to get to my car, and they always knew I was in a Cadillac or something. And it was, you know, you were in fear for your life sometimes.
The New Jersey crowds were always great in the Boston Garden. It was dangerous at the Boston Garden.
The fans were believers in that era. They believed the doggone thing was real. And they were some of the fans were very violent.
I look back on it and I'm saying, well, you put up a lot of you know what. But you know something? That's what drove me to do it. Because the more those people hated me, more this I made.
I was being punched and kicked, and I was having beer thrown on me. I was being hit by chairs.
How angry do you want to make your wrestling fans? How much do you want to butcher up your baby faces until they're all bleeding and they're being beaten by 8 or 10 guys? I mean, how far can you push an audience before they lose it and then you have the Alamo kind of thing?
Play with people's heads, you know. You gotta play with their minds, you gotta play with them. Psychology. Because that's how you manipulate people. And that's what I do. That's what I did for a living. I manipulated you when you were a kid. I know I did. Because you probably didn't like me, or you might have liked me because I was that way. And a lot of people did. A lot of people didn't. Thank you for the living I made at it, people. You were very good to me.
All right, we are back with the Evan Ginzburg Show at VillageConnectionRadio.com. This may be the best show I've ever done here at Village Connection because we have alcohol provided by Sean from Prestige Imports. So Sean will be happy. We're getting the word out, and a very nice guy. And speaking of nice guys, we have on our very first time here at Village Connection, we have Brother Greatness. And tell us a little about yourself.
Well, hello, boss man. My name is Bradley McElroy, better known as Brother Greatness. I've been in the wrestling game for a couple years, since 2012. May 27th was my first match, and yeah, I've been fighting really hard to kind of get my name out there. Work hard. Had an injury back in 2014 that took me out the game for about 2 years. But,
2 years. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I was a young guy still training, working shows and such. It was just kind of a freak accident kind of happened. Working with a younger guy, just a practice kind of thing.
Wow.
He jumps off. Was supposed to go for a splash. Went for a forearm smash, and didn't know how to do it. So I'm protecting myself for one thing. He's coming down with something else, and elbow right to the center of the head.
Wow.
Yeah, fractures all over my forehead. So it was kind of a mess.
Wow. Yeah. And while you were going through this, it's almost like Rocky coming back. Tell us about what it took to get back to where you were.
It was a lot. A lot of faith. Really, just a lot of faith in the Lord. My family's never been really too big on wrestling, so just kind of getting them to understand the return, speaking to doctors, trying to see it if I really could. Spent a lot of time managing, relearning everything in the ring from the bottom up to see how my body would react to everything again. Signed up for a new school. Signed up for Fight the World Wrestling. At first, I was at the Ludus in Brooklyn. Switched over to Fight the World, their school in Ridgewood. And eventually just getting an opportunity to wrestle again and just don't stop. Just keep going.
Wow. And are there any possible risks because of this former injury?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the biggest thing is just if I get hurt, if I take a serious injury to the head again.
Wow.
There's a laundry list of possible things that because I could have died the first time they said. So imagine if it happens twice. So I understand the risks, and I remember that when I'm in the ring, and I think that's a big part of why I lean into kind of the Brother Greatness side of me so much. Because if it wasn't for my faith and how much and my faith in God, honestly, I don't think I wouldn't be able to do it, and I wouldn't believe that I would be safe in the ring. And if you don't believe you're going to be safe in there, you're going to get hurt. You know?
So I guess you're going to avoid that Harley Race headbutt to the right.
Yeah, the different variations of flying headbutt is definitely
right.
That's what you're going to see with me.
Wow. So this is almost like a movie screenplay where you're following your dream and you have this unbelievable setback, and now you're back and you've overcome it, and this is like every third kung fu movie I've ever seen. The guy comes back from something horrible. He's training, right? It's really, really something. Really, quite a story. You ever think of writing a book?
That would be interesting. I did a documentary not too long ago with Imani Labels. He has a whole little network he recently started up. So I did a little documentary with him. Got a little bit of traction. So I don't know. I'm gonna see. We'll see what happens with the wrestling first, because that's the ultimate focus. If the story can help people out, find different ways to get it out.
And how does your family feel about you being back in the ring, considering you had such a terrible injury?
Oh yeah, they absolutely hate it.
Hate it? Wow.
But there's an understanding though. It took several years to get to that place. A lot of talking, a lot of crying, depressive moments, the whole 9 yards. But it's just they understand what it means to me, and they understand what I'm trying to represent when I go out there. And speak to fans and talk about like just life with a lot of these people, because a lot of people, they go out there to escape life, but it doesn't mean it's not still in their minds. So sometimes we'll get one or two people, nothing crazy, just walk up to me and just say, hey, I really like the gimmick, and I'm just like, it's not a gimmick, it's me. And they don't really believe it till we start speaking, and you find out a lot of really, really interesting stories, especially when I'm out there in the Bronx for BWF. You hear a lot of incredible testimonies, and it's nice to kind of have the opportunity to kind of speak into people's life a little bit. I don't know. I feel like I'm making a small difference somehow.
So explain to the layman who doesn't quite understand wrestling or may actually frown upon wrestling because it's presented circus-like in WWE. Why would you risk your life for this?
First and foremost, it's my love. It's the most important thing that I consistently do. Without it, I don't feel complete. And everyone should be able to understand that general concept. You know, there's something that you do or something that's a part of you that always needs to be there. When it's not, you can continue, but it's harder. It's a lot more difficult. And then on top of all that is the effect you have on other people when you're doing it. The entire wrestling community, for better or worse, you don't get the same thing in any other fan base. You get the entertainment, you get the sports aspect of it. It speaks to every facet of your life. It's its own separate entity, and you if you had it and you love it, you don't want to give it up.
I've had people say to me on many an occasion, quote, "What's an intelligent fellow like you doing involved in wrestling?" And it's very hard to explain it because WWE is often so ridiculous and juvenile that when you try to say this is an art form, when done well, these are great athletes, these are great performers, these are great showmen, they're incredibly charismatic. It's very hard to explain it to somebody who hasn't seen it. I once actually sat an educator down, and I showed her Tiger Mask against Dynamite Kid, okay, from Japan, and she had never really watched wrestling beyond Raw or SmackDown, with her kids for moments at a time, and she said, "Wow, now I understand. This is really something." Sure.
Absolutely. And, everyone has I think different styles speak to different people. So, you might get someone who loves all the juvenile stuff and that aspect of it. But then for that example, that's someone who really wants to see the sport of it, who wants to see the physical story, the heart of wrestling at the end of the day. So you have to show them the genre of wrestling that would be best for them.
Now, a lot of fans have not gotten down to the BWF, and I recommend they do. But for those who haven't seen you live in various arenas, tell us about your persona, Brother Greatness.
Brother Greatness, myself, I'm a Bajan American. My family's from Barbados, and we're highly Christian. My great grandfather was a pastor, and essentially, when I come out to the ring, you gather all of that before the music stops. You hear very, very loud Christian enthused instrumentals.
Wow, that's different.
Yep. Giant Bajan flag representing the country. Hallelujah. Pamphlets given out to as many people as I can possibly provide pamphlets for.
Religious pamphlets?
Yes.
Wow.
Different pieces of
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I've never seen one of the pamphlets on the ground. Like, it seems like they take them home or bring it to the proper trash receptacle. It's one or the other. But yeah, that's what you're gonna get when you see Brother Greatness come out. I'm not shoving my beliefs down anyone's throat, but at the same time, it's just, listen, this is who I am. This is what it is, and I'm just hoping that we can all have fun together during this. I'm gonna be who I am, be who you are. Let's just enjoy the next 10 minutes or less, depending on the time limit of this contest. Let's enjoy it together.
So, as somebody religious, spiritual, what attracts you to a business that a part of it is sex, drugs, rock and roll, and there's that seedy side of pro wrestling?
Anyone who's for any religion, well, at least the ones I know of any religion, they should want to be around that, because what are you doing just running around with all these wonderful, perfect Christian people? And none of these people are perfect. These religious people, they'll turn around and do terrible things in the background.
Oh yeah,
terrible things.
I think if you look at history, and I'm not singling out any particular religion, but most of the wars throughout history were because of religion. Secondly, land, just to acquire more land and conquer other countries. But religion has really resulted in millions upon millions of deaths. And I'm not saying anything anti-religion. I'm just stating a fact.
Yeah, absolutely right. And and that's anything that's taken radically. Anything that you dive in a little bit too much is going to instantly become a negative. And you see it in every aspect of our world. So when I go into anyone else's area, or even when I'm in my own, it's not about just throwing John 3:16s all over the place. It's just, listen, man, this is the life I'm trying to live. I'm trying to live a positive lifestyle. And you can pull all the religion aside. Everyone, at least I believe, everyone is looking for joy in their lives. Everything you do is because you want to be happy or make someone happy because that makes you happy. It's all about joy at the end of the day. And living this lifestyle brings me legitimate joy. And other people live different lifestyles and they're happy. And they're not hurting anyone or themselves. When you start hurting other people or taking from another person's joy or your joy in the future, that's when we have a problem. Yeah. And honestly, that's kind of goes right back to wrestling, because it's like you have an opportunity to entertain so many people. The joy is just spreading all over the place. It's lovely. Sure. And
as a Jew, I happen to love gospel music. And I actually went down to Al Green's church in Memphis, and it was the single greatest musical experience I ever had. And I used to see Al Green do gospel shows at the Beacon, Little Richard doing gospel shows at the Beacon, etc., so on. And I think religion can be a very positive thing. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie, etc. I think the problems become when it's all about guilt. You thought something wrong, you looked at another woman, whatever the case. I think that's where it gets a little, extreme. And I think great things have been done on behalf of religion. I think terrible things have been done because of religion. And I think it's like anything else. There's a good side and a bad side to it. And you sound like you have your head on straight, as opposed to a fanatic who... whenever I hear a politician, really, just overdoing it, I go, this guy's like days away from a scandal.
You're covering something up.
Yeah. When it's like overkill. These inevitably, this politician, like, they'll find him in the bathroom doing something wrong with somebody.
You're trying to change someone's mind.
Yeah. It's like he's working too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But wow, this went from like a wrestling show into like a whole different tangent.
Oh yeah.
What do you think, Jim?
I think so, but switched over a little bit.
What's your take on organized religion? And
I'm not really a religious person. I do believe in things, but not necessarily organized religion. It's just my own beliefs.
And that is not the voice of God. That's the voice of Jim Savali, the engineer and owner of Village Connection Radio.
The voice coming from above.
That's right. So, I find there's a lot of hypocrisy. You have a lot of very, very wealthy churches and other religions, and there's an awful lot of poor people in this country. And I think maybe at times they should do more. It's not about self-gain. It's about helping others.
No, absolutely. And I'm never gonna say that just because a religious organization is up, it's like, oh no, they're doing the. Sometimes people are just poor businessmen. Sometimes people are just poor men. Just, you have to determine, and I'm talking poor of heart. You have to be able to remember what the purpose of your organization is, and you'll have a couple churches that go up and great gospel, great music, but the CEO behind it might have really been thinking more for profit as opposed to not for profit. It really depends on which organization, what have you. Some people just don't know how to handle their funds effectively in a charitable way. So,
and I think some pocketing large sums of money as well.
Yeah, and it really depends. It's very case by case. It's like it's Doctors Without Borders versus whatever was that lowest rated cancer treatment society. There's a website that breaks down how
Oh yeah,
all the money's used.
you could check all kinds of charities, not just religious charities.
Yeah, for everyone.
And yeah, this charity 90% are going to the staff.
Yeah, then-
very little money's getting to the people that need it. And then there's other charities where 90% of money's getting to the people who need it.
Yeah, and it really
so do a
depends on
little
so many
research.
things.
Sure. I just need to point out that I love Hezekiah Walker. I just love Hezekiah Walker. I'm the only Jew in America who could say that.
I have to say, I never heard that one.
You never heard that from a Jew before.
Yeah, that's new.
But,
who is Hezekiah? What is that?
Hezekiah Walker. So I've been to many of his shows, and beautiful, just beautiful experiences. And when you go to a show like that, you feel like religion in its purest sense. Like everybody, it doesn't matter race, creed, color, age. Everybody's there. Just it's just a really positive experience.
And that's the experience I want to make sure people. Not everyone's gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna go see Kurt Franklin or Donnie McClurkin or anything like that. But
Kirk Franklin's no singer, but he's a great showman and it's great music.
He does help out. But when I don't have my regular music on, like ready to go for me, I go to a new go somewhere new. Like first time I went to Rampage or what have you. And if someone says anything to me about music, it's like you're not gonna have my custom theme, but Kurt Franklin's Revolution is definitely gonna get it.
I'll tell you Kirk Franklin's story. I saw him live at the World Trade Center. Wow. People forget that there were concerts at the World Trade Center. Totally forgotten in the history. They used to have concerts all summer for free. And there was Kirk Franklin in front of like 10,000 people. It was free. I mean, it's like the ground was shaking. That's how dynamic this guy was. But he's more a conductor than a singer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the guy's tremendous performer, showman. Yeah.
And the ground's probably literally shaking. They probably sang "Stomp."
Yeah,
so people were literally just stomping on the ground.
Yeah. No, really. I mean, it's almost like a dream when you think of the concerts at the World Trade Center, because you're going back almost 20 years, and it's kind of forgotten in the whole tragedy. But I used to see world-class performers down there, Isaac Hayes, the Delphonics, just great people. Yeah. So. Lost to history, the concerts at the World Trade Center. Boy, have we gone away from wrestling.
Yeah.
So tell us about some career highlights.
I guess the biggest things for me, once again, relatively young in the game. I guess my first win back after the injury. Worked a relatively younger cat too at BWF a couple months ago. So just getting that first career win back, definitely a big deal. About 2 weeks ago at Dover, the Outbreak Wrestling Championship was defended. I got an opportunity to face Damien in a triple threat match. So the championship was on the line. That was very cool, open challenge. Similar title shot at Fight the World Wrestling against Malta. Whiplash, Superstar Whiplash from the GOAT.
I know Malta. He's a big boy also.
Oh, yeah, about
around
the 7 foot area code.
Yeah.
Very large guy, yeah.
He's Cicluna's nephew. Baron Cicluna's nephew.
Really? I did not know that. Wow, he's an interesting fellow too. When you have a conversation with that guy.
He played Andre the Giant in a movie.
Yeah, recently. Yeah. Don't know when it went. Don't know when it came out though.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it was good. It was quality. He's something else. You don't want to get powered by him.
He's been around a long time.
Yeah. And definitely just running the world with not the world, but at least a couple states with my guys in Omega Black. The Greg Joneses, Osiris, who has a championship in Maine, I think, right now, and Dash and D Weatherford. Just working with those guys, and just every moment with those guys is a highlight as far as I'm concerned.
And who are some wrestlers that have influenced you?
Definitely have to give a big shout out to Rey Mysterio. Just in terms of just on a fan level before I started, just seeing a smaller guy come out and really do incredible things.
Yeah, it's interesting as an old school fan, particularly as a WWF fan. It was always based on super heavyweights, and I'll tell you why. Because Bruno was like Superman.
Yeah,
he was Superman. I mean, this guy bench pressed over 500 pounds. And unless they were like monsters, you couldn't take them as serious challenges to him. Mm-hmm. So Bruno would always be wrestling guys like Ernie Ladd, Superstar Graham, Ivan Koloff. I mean, huge. Ken Patera, the strongest man in the world. So I grew up on these super heavyweights, and when Rey Mysterio came around, you were like, wow, it's like this is a new world where you put a belt on he's actually small. Yeah. I mean, even Daniel Bryan to me was almost alien because he was an average sized guy. He wasn't a big monster, and wrestling's really changed. What's your take on that?
Well, it changed because it almost had to. I want to say, it's a business. At the end of the day, you're gonna want to see. People want to see themselves on some degree on the screen.
See, McMahon looks at it more like, Bonham and Bailey. They want to see something different. They want to see a superhero, supervillain.
Well, you still have to be that superhero, supervillain, right. But you have to be a different type of... It's the same thing with Marvel. Like, coming out with Black Panther, which, based on my limited knowledge, honestly, was never that big of a comic book seller. It probably isn't now. It was never that big of a franchise, but people want to see themselves. The success for Wonder Woman for DC Films. People want to see themselves. And when you have legitimate quality athletes that can do tremendous things that completely make up for the size disparity. Like, you see Rey Mysterio popping out a 619 in a West Coast pop. I would love to see anyone pre 1985 from the WWF of that kind of size pull off the exact same
interesting
maneuver.
You say that.
It's doable, but it's...
Yeah. At the 350 days screenings nationwide, I interviewed J.J. Dillon after the movie. Mm-hmm. It's an extensive interview. He compares wrestling then and now, and he says guys today are doing things that we couldn't have dreamt of. He was actually very positive about today's wrestling. He's 76 years old. Usually when you talk to an old school guy, they're like, oh, it's a cartoon now. No, he's very positive. And Daniel Bryan's doing stuff that, Bruno could never have done. Yeah. Bruno was, very meat and potatoes, punch kick. But Bruno had off-the-charts charisma. Yeah. There are guys today that could do 37 high spots, but they don't have the charisma. Yeah, and they look like a kid off the street. And at bare minimum, buy some gear, and look like a wrestler, Don't look like a teenager, in jeans and whatever.
Yeah, your little cut-off short. I mean, no disrespect to John Cena, but your little cut-off shorts.
But Cena's the exception.
Yeah, Cena's also a monster. Yeah. He can do that. He's guys my size should be in the gym, be superbly athletic. I'm in the gym at least, not talking about the ring training, but I'm in the gym at least 4 times a week. Wow. Minimum has to be
discipline,
done.
Sure.
You have to be. You have to be concerned about your diet. Where's your weight at? What's going on?
Just sitting in this room, you lose a few pounds. It's like 107 degrees.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to eat an extra meal or something to kind of make up for this. But it's just important. I think charisma is the most important thing when you come out. Yeah. I want the entire crowd with me.
And charisma you can't teach. Either you have it or you don't. Yeah. And you could do the most scripted promo in the world on WWE. You can't create charisma. I mean, I watch Baron Corbin, and it's like the guy just doesn't have it. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean,
he doesn't really have the gift of gab there. He's just struggling.
He's a big guy, and he could do whatever moves he could do, but he's not Billy Graham. Billy Graham was not a. Billy Graham was not Billy Robinson. Billy Graham was meat and potatoes, but the charisma was off the charts. Yeah. I mean, it's Bruno and Billy Graham, you're talking test of strengths, working the ref, working the crowd, punch, kick, bleed. I mean, it wasn't high art, but it worked. The building was shaking. Today, you have the opposite, where a kid could do every move in the book, but he just doesn't have it.
That's true.
It's a different business, for better and for worse.
Why are you doing all this if no one cares?
Exactly.
Someone needs to care about your backflips.
I mean, I'll go to an indie show, and if you ask me the results the next day, I couldn't tell you for much of it, not all of it. Like I said, there were, we were talking about Sonny Kiss and Mike Orlando. There's real talent out there. But in many cases, it's a blur of high spots. A blur.
Absolutely.
And I could tell you stuff that happened in 1974 because it stuck with you. And what happened last Saturday down at the Elks Lodge may not.
Yeah, but on the flip side, though, once again, genres of wrestling, there's different people who will run down there, and that's that's really their primary focus. They're just so focused on this is what I want to see, so that they could run around and say, hey, listen, I saw. I'll just say Superstar Whiplash, even though I feel like he could do so much. He could do everything he wants to do. Essentially, he's fantastic. Great mentor to me for a long period of time. Be like, I saw Superstar Whiplash and Chris Cage do this great tag team move together, and that's just what they're focused
So
on.
I'm going to tell you something else, and not to lecture you, but this is the first time I've ever heard of Superstar Whiplash. So instead of mastering that 75th move, promote yourself. Promote yourself. This is something that's missing with a lot of young wrestlers.
That's true.
They're talking about Raw and SmackDown and Brock Lesnar. Promote yourself. I've never heard that name before.
Yeah,
And I'm
great guy.
involved with this, and I never heard that name before.
No, he's a good guy. Has a couple tag championships. He's
But-
cool, but,
but-
you know,
but-
a lot of people. Once again, to your point, not enough
And
self promotion.
I'm not being critical of him specifically. I'm making a general statement.
absolutely.
You know, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody knows about it, this guy could be the best wrestler in the world. Put yourself out there. Post your videos. You know, have an online presence. Mike Orlando not wrestling the next 5 months, you'll still see him constantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he gets the game. It's, you know, promotion is a big part of pro wrestling. You have to make yourself known. Don't be a secret.
Yeah, gotta let people know you're out here. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Where do you live?
In Brooklyn.
You came from Brooklyn all the way out to Huntington, Long Island, early in the morning, okay, to promote yourself. Do you know how many wrestlers have said, "Oh, you know, it's too far. I don't have a ride." It's like, okay, well, then you lost your opportunity to talk to a couple thousand people. I mean, you know, it's on you.
Yeah, and I never understand why people don't do. You should be hungry. If you're not hungry, why are you doing this?
Sometimes they only know the ring. Listen, the expression, the term is wrestling business. This is the wrestling business. It's the movie business. It's the music business. You know, you could create your own art from here to tomorrow, but if nobody knows about it, you're in a vacuum. So I would tell Mr. Whiplash to heavily promote himself and let people see how great he is, to come on this show and introduce himself to a different audience beyond the arenas that he's working on, to Johnny Malloy, who left in a huff before, will tell you that he's seen me post about 350 days probably 20,000 times the past 2 months, because people need to know about the movie. You know, a movie could play in front of nobody also unless they know about it. It's a business, and sometimes that's lost in the equation while they're at the gym 7 times a week. You know, it's or the wrestling school, or both.
Yeah.
So
and it's hard. It's
this
hard.
is a
And I
public
get it,
service
but, you know.
announcement from your Uncle Evan. Yeah,
everyone promote yourselves.
Yeah.
Get out there.
No, seriously. So what do you have coming up?
The 2 biggest shows for me to really discuss it. Bronx Wrestling Federation. Malloy already discussed it prior to you angering him greatly. BWF first Saturday of every month. I know that I'm definitely working the show. I'm not sure exactly who I'll be going up against, which don't always know. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But I'm definitely prepared and ready. It's gonna be a great show, family friendly atmosphere. As already discussed, really great.
And there's some
community.
legitimately good workers on there, and
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
some older guys, experienced veterans. It's not just kids from the school.
Yeah, no.
I saw one of LAX down there a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
Santana.
I got some. Yeah. I mean,
Santana's
this
down
guy's
there.
a world class wrestler.
And you know, he's around sometimes. He trains with the guys. He helps out a lot. Believe he actually has his own situation starting up soon called the Foundation or something to that
Okay.
effect. But there's a lot happening in the Bronx.
LAX is top notch.
Oh, fantastic! And I loved getting to work with them back when they were EYFBO. Got to in terms of Ortiz and Santana formerly Drastic, at the old Ludus School in Brooklyn. They were fantastic. It was great seeing them.
And going
develop
back
and grow.
even further, how great is Homicide?
Oh man,
Homicide, that's a world class wrestler.
Yeah, and when you meet him, he treats everyone the same.
Yeah,
it's incredible. I worked at now you create a relatively new promotion as well. You had Homicide and Schlack and Grim Reaper, Caveman, a lot of really good.
Grim Reaper is very underrated.
Oh, absolutely.
This guy's been around a good 20 years, if not more, and this I've never seen him put on a bad match.
No, he's fantastic. He's actually my last trainer prior to coming to FTW in Queens. Yeah, he's he's the one who really brought me back because
he came out of the doghouse with the late Bobby Lombardi. Yeah, Bobby Lombardi was a dear friend, and we did 2 tributes to him on TV. Bobby, one, he was in studio and he was in bad health. He had lost a leg to diabetes, and he started crying on TV. You know, we gave him Christopher Michaels and myself. We gave him a plaque, and it was very emotional. And the next tribute was after he was gone. He died young. He's early 50s, and I was actually at his memorial, and it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks after my own mom died, and it was tough. He was a good guy, Bobby Lombardi, and he's like one of the unsung heroes of this business. He trained he was instrumental in Homicide's training, Low Key, you know, a lot of top guys who made it, and Bobby never made any like big money in this business, but an unsung hero of the wrestling business.
And people should talk about the Doghouse more often because the people who came out of there are just each and every one of them just fantastic wrestlers.
Oh yeah. I used to go see Homicide and Louis Ramos have Christmas tree death matches. They would wrap the weapons under the Christmas tree and mutilate each other, and it was insane. It was great. I mean, I love Louis Ramos. He's supposed to be on next week, by the way. Louis Ramos in studio. That'll be fun. Wow. That guy. Speaking of charisma, this guy has more charisma than virtually anybody. Louis Ramos. You ever see Louis wrestle?
I never actually watched him wrestle.
He's a hardcore wrestler whose hero was Hulk Hogan.
Oh my
Talk
goodness.
about irony. But he wrestles straight matches too, But Louis something. This guy's got so much charisma. Yeah.
I have to see him if he's charisma based. You got to see those exciting, get the crowd off their feet kind of people.
I'm sure you could wrestle circles around him, but this guy, I mean, the charisma's off the charts.
Well, we need somebody to schedule this match.
Yeah. And he's still wrestling. He's still working. He's not a kid anymore, but he's still working.
Well, I feel like wrestlers don't ever really stop.
They stop getting booked. That's what happens.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like no one wants you to come, or you're no longer able to. Those are your options.
I'm going to tell you something, as crazy as it may sound. Greg Valentine, who's going to be in studio Wednesday the 11th at 8 o'clock, Jim? 8 o'clock, I believe. 8 o'clock. Greg Valentine in studio, 69 years old. He's still wrestling. Good friend of mine. Nikolai Volkov, 71 years old. He's still wrestling. 71 years old. Okay? Jimmy Valiant, who's a friend of mine, still wrestling, 75 years old. So basically, either you stop getting booked or, you have an injury and you just literally retire.
Yeah.
Tito Santana's in his 60s. He still wrestles.
People get hurt, they come. People get hurt, they come back anyway. It doesn't matter.
But this is what I'm saying about the old school guys. I mean, they're not doing the crazy stuff to put themselves out of commission. They're
have longevity because of that.
You have the longevity, and of course, they'll tell the young guy, "Listen, no bumps. I'm not a kid anymore." Yeah. But they're still out there.
Even myself, I'm a smaller guy, but you're not gonna come to one of my matches and see several Phoenix splashes and a shooting star press. Will I get thrown through a pillar? Happened, but 9 times out of 10, there's no need for it. There's no need for all the extra stuff. I plan to stay in this as long as my body will allow. Yes. So you gotta give your body a chance to allow you to stay.
That's right. Any social media you like to plug? Any?
Definitely. Instagram, Brother Greatness 2012. Any matches that come up, pictures, stuff for individuals that I'm close to, any promotions, you'll see everything about that there. Facebook, you can literally look up Bradley McElroy.
And spell that.
Bradley.
That one I know.
Just because people miss the E. It's confused. Everyone misses that E. And then McElroy, McElroy. Look me up right on Facebook, little parentheses, Brother Greatness. And the recently remade Brother Greatness like page just recently launched a couple days ago. Get on all of those, and you'll get the links to everything else. Omega Black, which is a stable that is about to return now, and the YouTube page as well. You'll get the links to all of that through there.
Okay, so stay safe. I don't want to see another 2-year accident. It's a tough business, but I give you nothing but credit and respect for sticking with it, and nothing but the best. I hope to see you in WWE one day and say that we knew you when.
That would be nice.
I knew Mick Foley when he was sleeping in cars, making $50 payoffs. The guy's a millionaire now.
Yeah.
It's a crazy business.
Still wearing the same clothes he was wearing back then.
That's why he's got millions. He saved his money. But no, seriously, it's you never know who's gonna make it, who isn't. When we did The Wrestler, I did 5 casting calls. We had the ROH guys on set, and there they are, Claudio, Daniel. Daniel Bryan, who was Bryan Danielson at the time.
Do the flip.
And, we're just hanging out, and 10 years later, these guys are huge, huge stars. And it's a funny business. You never know who's going to make it and who's going to fall off the map. So, and you have the drive and the talent. So,
I mean, WWE would be nice, but, injuries and all. My focus is really just, I want to be great where I am right now, and what comes. It doesn't have to be the only career. I have my 9 to 5. It's the love of the sport and the love of the people who get to see it. It's all about.
What do you do with your 9 to 5?
I'm a job recruiter.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. So, tell folk out there to when they do their resumes to proofread it, because when you have 7 mistakes on it, you're not impressing anybody.
Yeah, it's gonna mess you up. Definitely.
And last job first. First job last. Some people have no idea how to do a resume.
They really don't have it. And it's, a lot of the stuff online is a little bit, it's not really the best. Speak to someone who hires people and get their assistance. Everyone knows a manager.
So real quick, what advice would you give to job seekers?
I guess the biggest one.
Also, don't give up. It could take 6 to 9 months to find a job.
Oh, yeah, because you have to understand, no one cares about your resume. They care about filling their job with who they need. And if you don't fit it for whatever reason, it could be the smallest thing. Don't waste your time arguing. Just, it's what it is. Move on to the next thing.
Sure.
Just know when you started and ended a job. That's nothing bigger than that. And if you have a giant gap in your resume, make sure you know why it's there.
Sure.
That's the number one reason we can't pick someone up. You don't know what you did between 2012 and 2015. And we have to run a background check. We don't want to find out that you went to prison just now, and this position won't allow you to come in with...
Some of them are sitting in their basements just watching wrestling. That's what happened those 3 years. I'm kidding.
They better find something. They better at least say they were helping sell shirts at the events or something. Have a
Exactly. And on an interview, understand that you're sitting there because they liked your resume or job application. And it's a back and forth conversation. It's not the cops grilling the suspect. To be relaxed, be confident, look the person in the eye, have a firm handshake. Let the interviewer sit down first. There's some real basic little things that will help you on a job interview.
Be on time. Don't smell bad. Dress professionally.
That's right.
Just have questions before you get there, because you will be asked, do you have any questions? If you don't have any, sometimes it seems like you're not interested.
Yeah.
Just
do a little research. The websites are online. Know about the company.
Know your CEO's name if possible. Little things.
And also, basically, it's almost like the citizenship test. It's the same 50 questions. You could study the questions, study the answers, and a little trick. When they say, how much money are you looking for? Do not give out a number, because it's always going to be too high or too low. Yeah. What would you pay someone with my experience? What would you pay someone with my qualifications? Don't give out a number, because you're going to sabotage yourself.
And honestly, on the flip side of that too, it really depends who you're dealing with. If you're interviewing with a manager, they don't have to do certain things. If you're sitting down with someone who's only doing the job recruiting or just someone who's just a small part of the interview, and they say, listen, I actually need a number, those are the people who might. There's some of them who will be like, we're not going to hire you now because you won't tell us what you want.
Well, you can say, well, at my last job, I made.
Exactly.
That's different.
Because they can't legally ask you that anymore.
Yeah.
Or have a range. The range, I think, is the best
range
advice.
is fine. But I would not give a specific number because generally it's too high or too low because you don't have psychic powers to know what they're paying.
Have a range and be informed about the range. Know what you need.
Sure.
Understand what benefits you're supposed to get from the position. Look at Glassdoor. Go on Glassdoor. It'll usually give you an idea of how much that position pays at that company. You can do this. Just focus.
And you're wondering how I know all this because I used to teach adult ed. So back in the day. So anyway, Brother Greatness, thank you for appearing. Your first appearance on the Evan Ginzburg Show at Village Connection Radio, and you're always welcome back on the show. And tell all your colleagues they should be promoting themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go. That's the moral of the story.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. We're going to take a very brief time out, and when we come back, we're going to try to call Michael McCurdy, radio host and wrestling historian. And right now, we're going to show another of our videos.
Days a year as a wrestler on the road. Maybe it's a sickness.
350 days a year.
A lot of physical pain, a lot of loneliness.
You have no home life whatsoever.
Piper and me riding down the road, doing 8 balls of cocaine. I'm sure it broke up marriages.
How many guys in the wrestling business have a family left when they're done? Most of them lose it.
I couldn't have children. I couldn't put on my turnbuckle while mommy worked.
I look forward to it, bro. You know why? Because I love it so much. It's in my heart.
When you're famous, you don't have to go look for trouble. Trouble comes knocking on your door.
I hit the bars, and that was my character. Sitting in a room with a bunch of wrestlers doing cocaine, we really got to know each other.
I would take a lot of downers, and I did have problems with the downers.
I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I was not a faithful husband from the first day, for the whole time on the road. I lived a double life.
I needed it. It was like, I'm not getting the love I needed home.
Would I do? Oh my God, I am afraid to say I would do it again.
I wouldn't change a thing.
No regrets. I loved everything I did. I actually wish I could do it all over again.
Well, I want to tell you, to make some big money in wrestling, you had to wrestle every night of the week, $30 every day. So you had to wrestle 6 and 7 times every week just to earn your money.
350 days on the road with wrestlers, a living hell.
All right, we are back with the Evan Ginzburg Show at villageconnectionradio.com. Jim Savali at the helm, and we are trying to reach Michael McCurdy, radio host and wrestling historian. And the beeping that you are hearing is Michael McCurdy's phone. Dead silence is not what you want on a radio show, so I'm going to talk to myself.
Hello.
Michael, Evan Ginzburg, how are you?
How you doing, Evan?
Good, good. Welcome to the Evan Ginzburg Show at Village Connection Radio, and I just wanted to thank you for helping support 350 Days, and please tell us about your show.
Our show is Wrestling Memories Then and Now on Pioneer 90.1 FM in the Deep River Falls, Minnesota area. We air now airing Sundays at noon Central Standard Time, 1 p.m. where you're at. So we're just going to be airing in a few minutes today. And this week's guest is Kenny Starmaker Bolin. So it's going to be an interesting interview. We have a radio edit, actually, this week because Kenny's a little colorful with how he likes to talk about things. So had to edit it down a little bit. Going to have an uncensored version available on our Facebook page later in the week. So I think fans are going to enjoy the episode. And we did enjoy having you on a couple weeks ago to talk about 350 days, which I will be hopefully attending on July 12th out here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, there you go. And the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame is also doing a big Texas showing in Wichita Falls. So a bunch of stars, including Johnny Mantell, will be there in Texas as well. So Kenny Bolin is a good talker, and he's been in the business for decades. I'm sure you're going to have a great show with him. And tell us about some of the legends that you've had on your show.
We've had recently Dr. D. David Schultz has been on. We are in talks right now with Mo from Men on a Mission. WWE is going to be on an upcoming episode. We have Short Sleeve Samson coming up. A lot of people know him. Yeah. A lot of WWE appearances and appearances all over the U.S. for the indie groups. We've also had J.J. Dillon's been on our show. Jim Cornette. This is our 7th season. We just started. I just recently joined on as co-host. Before that, it was Glenn Bregan and George Shire were the hosts for the first 6 years of the program. So
wow,
I'm very much enjoying being part of the show, and I think we got a great lineup of guests. And you can also find us on TuneIn Radio app if you're not in the Minnesota area in the FM dial. And also, you can go to RadioNorthland.org and stream it live from their website as well. So
and
many ways for people to listen.
And as somebody who loves wrestling history, how do you compare the wrestling of then and now? Positive and negative. What's your take on it?
I enjoy all wrestling. I mean, I can easily watch something from I can watch Luthez, and then a few minutes later watch Braun Strowman. I enjoy really the evolution of what it's become. It's more of an entertainment now, but there is still a solid wrestling background in there. I enjoy it. I have a son who's just now starting to watch it. He really enjoys it. 7 years old now. He tells me he wants to be a wrestler. That's how much he's into it. So,
wow.
But I think the product is great, and with so many opportunities to watch it with WWE Network, Honor Club with Ring of Honor, New Japan World, so many streaming sites to be able to watch it. I think now is probably one of the best times to be a wrestling fan. There's so much content available for people, including 350 days when it becomes available. I'm sure there'll be many ways to stream that as well. And I think now it's just an awesome time to be a wrestling fan.
I tend to agree, and a lot of people are surprised when an old school fan says that. I mean, I was just watching Ring of Honor's Honor Club yesterday. I was watching their pay-per-view from Friday, and they had all the New Japan guys on. I subscribe to New Japan World. I think it's really a golden age for wrestling fans. There's endless indies every weekend you could enjoy. You could stream the best wrestling in the world right on your computer. And we have in studio Brother Greatness. What's your take on that?
Well, my biggest thing is everything's going to evolve, as we kind of discussed a little bit earlier. And if evolution is to occur, you have to understand why it's happening and how everyone can best benefit from it and best enjoy any evolution that occurs in any company that goes beyond wrestling.
It's funny, like the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, sometimes I won't watch the entire show in one sitting. I'll just watch it over a few days, 1 or 2 matches at a time, and kind of savor it. Sometimes for me, 3 or 4 hours of wrestling is overkill, especially a WWE pay-per-view, which at times can be numbing. But
it could be a lot of wrestling to take in one shot.
Yeah, the WWE pay-per-view seems to be getting longer, right, Mike?
A little bit. I remember when you used to get a pay-per-view, even back in the old days when you had to buy it, you had satellite or cable, and it was 2 hours, 45 minutes, maybe 55 minutes tops if you had a match with a longer match. But except for WrestleMania was always a bigger one. But that right there seems for me like almost the perfect amount. The big event was about 3 hours. Now you turn on Monday Night Raw and you've got, well, I can't say 3 hours of wrestling because there's a lot of interviews, but you got a 3-hour show just on regular TV, and now your pay-per-view events are 3 and 4 hours long, or in the case of New Japan, when they do their big events, you're talking like 5 or 6 hours, and over here in the States, you're having to watch those at 2 o'clock in the morning.
New Japan, the pay-per-views, 90% of the matches are great though, so it's not as big an endurance contest. Sometimes those
definitely not.
Yeah,
But
sometimes those
5 hours at 2 a.m. is a long time.
That's right. Yeah. Sometimes those 4 or 5 hour WWE pay-per-views, I feel like it's penance for sins I committed in previous lifetimes. It's like, oh man, sometimes it feels endless. But I find that whether it's Raw, whether it's a pay-per-view, whether it's a WWE house show, it's kind of the same scenario. There's those 2 or 3 really worthwhile matches and a whole lot of filler. Am I wrong?
Well, it depends. There's always going to be some level of filler, but I think what's really happening here is the WWE, and I think Triple H did some kind of interview or something about this. Each demographic is enjoying a different section of the product. That's really how I feel about that. So when we watch NXT, someone who, like an individual like yourself that really is knowledgeable about wrestling, loves it, is a big part of it.
NXT takeovers are great.
Yeah,
great.
It's great wrestling, great storytelling. The storytelling is quite similar to kind of the honestly, like the older days of wrestling. It's simple, but it's deep and thought provoking and soul inspiring. And then you'll come over to something that's a little bit lighter. And sometimes it's for the kids, sometimes for the casual wrestling fan that's just popping in, and they'll spend some level of cash. They're not they're not the 20% of your audience that's going to pay for 80, that's going to give you 80%
I understand.
of your rev, but they're still significant.
I know you're very spiritual and Christian, but I'm going to curse right now. I like wrestling. That's a curse word to McMahon. Wrestling. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy a Seth Rollins. I enjoy guys Daniel Bryan, of course. And when it gets too silly and, sometimes it feels like stunt work to me. It doesn't even feel like wrestling.
Yeah, to a degree, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. And so, Michael, what are you watching?
What am I watching currently?
Yeah, what do you enjoy?
Honestly, like I said, I watch all of it. I watch NXT, WWE, TNA. I catch whatever I can online. I'm out in Fort Worth, Texas. We have a huge indie scene out here right now. There's, I believe, 8 or 9 active promotions just within my area, so there's a big indie scene out here. I'm like you. I enjoy wrestling. I enjoy a little bit of entertainment as well. So, I mean, I have my favorites. I mean, like right now, I'm enjoying Braun Strowman. I like what they're doing with Braun Strowman.
I like when
he
Braun
is right now
Strowman,
currently one of my personal favorites.
I like when Braun Strowman does the fee fi fo fum and he starts roaring like he's out of Jack and the Beanstalk. That's colorful. But yeah, he's actually quite good for a big guy. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I enjoy him.
No, I love the way they developed him, because in the beginning, people really, I feel like individuals have a short memory sometimes. A lot of wrestling fans did not like Braun. They didn't think he was moving well, and etc. And then when he did his whole program, the initial program with Big Show, and really started to get a little bit of fire, that natural build was really nice. The wrestling fan beginning to care about this character and fall in love with it, and then get to appreciate the wrestling afterwards. It's probably one of the best examples of WWE doing a great job with someone. We don't have enough of those.
I enjoy him. I was disappointed his match with Lesnar. I thought he looked very green, but in general, the guy's been really quite good. Quite good.
I'm shocked he doesn't have the championship right now, honestly.
He'll get it eventually. McMahon loves the big boys. Yeah. So, Michael, who are some of the guests you have coming up?
Coming up, as I said, this week we have Kenny Bolin. Next week we have Short Sleeve Samson. I'm in talk with Mo from Men on a Mission. We've got Frogman LeBlanc is going to be on our show down the road. I'm in talks with Gary Young. Just a lot of the new names. Tim Hornbaker, he's got a new book coming out. We're in talks with him right now. White Lightning Tim Horner. Glenn's trying to get in contact with him about a guest spot on the show. So I think the fans are going to enjoy some of the stuff we've got coming up.
Tim Horner is very underrated, tremendous wrestler, tremendous, and you have a great lineup, and I think it's positive, that you love history and support the current stuff, because a lot of the old school guys like myself tend to lean negative, but I love New Japan, I love ROH, and I support the indies, and I just, like I said, I have very, very mixed emotions about WWE. I just find Raw can be indoor as opposed to Raw indoor. But what can I say? So, Michael, please give the listeners one more time how they could hear your show, where they could hear your show.
We're Wrestling Memories Then and Now on Pioneer 90.1 KSRQ FM in the Minnesota area. You can also find us on RadioNorthland.org or use the TuneIn Radio app, which is available on smartphones, tablets, Roku, all available there. You can also go to RadioNorthland.org and find all of our archives, 6.5, almost 7 years of interviews from the beginning all the way to now. So you can download, listen to it at your leisure on whatever device you want. And also, you can go to our official Facebook page, just search for Wrestling Memories Then and Now. We post links to the current episodes as well as links of past shows. And you can also find our On This Day segments. Brian Westcott, he was the former NWA historian, good friend of mine. He's contributing On This Day segments. So we're trying to open up a social media angle where fans can find out more about, wrestling memories and wrestling history. So.
You sound far more tech savvy than me. Usually when somebody asks me, how do you listen to the show? I'll go, I have no idea. So Jim Savali, tell us how we can listen to the show here.
Our show?
Our show.
You can go to villageconnectionnetwork.com and you can click Watch Live or go to Evan's page and you can see his archives on the bottom for the last year.
There you go.
And where else? You can see us on Facebook Live when the show is live at Village Connection Network. And that's it. Village Connection Network on YouTube.
Okay. So, Michael, just want to thank you. I know you have a show in a couple of minutes, so I'll let you go. But keep up the great work. And you're going to love J.J. Dillon's tremendous. I mean, tremendous. You'll have a great show with him.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing 350 Days July 12th.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your support, Michael. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Okay, so we are rapidly running out of time. We'll check out some of the videos before we go. And coming up later, we have the Under the Radar Randy Unger Pop Culture Show. And he'll whip out the Batmobile and the gimmicks, and we'll have that in just a few. But once again, I'd like to thank Brother Greatness and Michael McCurdy. And even though he stormed out of here...
Well, I hope he's not waiting outside for you. I think I should walk out with you.
Yeah, I might need your protection.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to play out.
You're ex-military. I might need your help.
Well, I got weapons. It's okay.
That's right. He's got weapons. Johnny Malloy may be waiting for me outside. I felt like Gordon Soley when he stormed out of here. But what
maybe
can
he'll come back someday. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It's really up to him. I try not to hold grudges.
Right.
So with that out of the way, I guess we'll show one last video and we'll wrap things up. And thank you again, Brother Greatness.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
And it's nice to see somebody in the wrestling business who's spiritual, who's living a clean life, because I've known many degenerates in this business, many, which is not a blanket statement. I've also known. So let me temper that with I know guys like Nikolai Volkov who have never touched a drug, never drank, unlike myself who drinking away here thanks to Prestige Imports who left us here. But guys like Nikolai are perfectly clean, and it's a choice like anything else. And Nikolai, that's why he's wrestling at 71 and not dead at 31 like many in our business.
Wow. Big gap there.
That's
It
right.
Depends on how you live your life. That's all it is.
That's right. So with that public service message, it's ironic that I'm making this service message with 2 bottles of alcohol in front of me, right?
Look at that, drinking straight from the bottle. You're
right.
doing it right here.
That's right. So that'll about do it, folks. Thanks for all our guests. And next week, Low Life Louis Ramos, Mr. Big, Monty and the Pharaoh, and others to be announced right here. And check out Monty and the Pharaoh's wrestling show Thursday nights, 8:05. The beautiful number 8:05 from TBS. Monty and the Pharaoh, they have a great wrestling show here. Is the other wrestling show still on?
No, they took a leave of absence.
Leave of absence. Okay, just checking. All right, so that'll about do it, folks. The Evan Ginzburg Show, always an eclectic mix. We went from wrestling to religion to job hunting and everything in between. So.
That all dead, the lines cut off inside my head. I left here like a broken man with no idea of where I stand. Oh, my mind clear. Oh, I shed all of my tears. Oh, now baby, I was just waiting here while you moved on. Security, this newfound freedom you kept from me. The sound of all your loaded gun. This outbreak war has just begun. The sound of all your loaded gun. This broken man has already won.